You know what I've been doing all weekend? Watch nothing but shitty movies, and I don't know why I sound like I'm proud of that, but I'm not. Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones takes place 10 years after Phantom Menace. Padme Amidala, played again by Natalie Portman, has been relieved as Queen of Naboo, because apparently your role as Queen in the Star Wars universe is the same as being President in the United States. And she's now Senator of Naboo. She heads to Coruscant for a special vote, but her cruiser gets ambushed, and luckily she wasn't killed, but Obi-Wan Kenobi, who's now a Jedi Knight, and his Padawan Anakin Skywalker come in to basically protect her. Later that night, another assassination attempt happens, which leads the two Jedi to a bounty hunter named Zam Wesell, who's working for another bounty hunter that Obi-Wan tracks to the cloner planet of Kamino, and the bounty hunter is revealed to be Jango Fett, who the cloners are using as a host to basically build a grand army of the Republic, under the order of a Jedi that did not go through the Council. There's a little mystery there that gets solved if you watch the Clone Wars animated series, but that's another story. So Obi-Wan tracks Jango Fett to the desert planet of Geonosis as he discovers a much thicker plot that could end peace in the galaxy for a period of time and possibly change the fate of the galaxy. As this is going on, Anakin is assigned to protect Padme, where they eventually form a bond and start to fall in love, even though you're not allowed to have romantic attachments as a Jedi. And then they both get sucked into Obi-Wan's story, and it's still not a good movie in the long run. Now, let me be fair with the prequels. Phantom Menace did get some stuff right, admittedly. And what it got right, Attack of the Clones actually got better. But everything that Phantom Menace got wrong, Attack of the Clones got worse. The acting is still bad. It's probably a little worse than Phantom Menace. The dialogue is abysmal. There are many boring moments. It's longer than Phantom Menace. And there is a horrible love story in this movie that just is awful. But let's get into the acting first. Ian McGregor is back as Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he's the one of two actors that actually tries with the material. It's still bad material, and he still has to say some horrible lines, including like, relax, just concentrate. What about Padme? She seems to be on top of things. And it's just like, ugh. Like, it's stuff like that. And he's still bland in some parts. But I still believe that this guy is a young Obi-Wan who's progressing as he advances towards being the Jedi Master that we see him in Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. Hayden Christensen plays an older Anakin Skywalker, who's a Padawan now, and he is awful. As an actor, Hayden Christensen's very bland, forgettable, uninterested in what's going on at all. I mean, he's not as people say that he's annoying, and character-wise, Anakin is annoying because he's whiny, he disobeys Obi-Wan's orders, whether out of rebellion or stupidity. So he's annoying in a character sense, but in an actor sense, he's too bland to actually be annoying. Natalie Portman's still terrible in this movie. Again, luckily she's gone on to be a great actress after this, but here she's horrible. She's, again, uninterested. Basically, everything I said about Hayden Christensen applies for Natalie Portman. And the love story is abysmal. It's cliche, cheesy, and a little uncomfortable to watch because these actors just seem so disinterested. There are snippets where it looks like they're having a good time, and there is a bit of chemistry, but for the most of it, they look disinterested. They have to say horrible lines like, "I've been dying a little bit every day since you came back into my life." Ugh, I just cringed a little bit having to recite that. But it's just, ugh. The best thing I can say about the love story, and this is a backhanded compliment, is it's still a better love story than Twilight and 50 Shades of Grey. And everyone knows that's a motherfucking fact. The script and the dialogue is still bad, mainly the dialogue because there's a lot of attempts at humor here, like really childish humor that doesn't work. There's like horrible puns, like I mentioned the one with Obi-Wan, But with C-3PO, there's an arena fight, which is pretty cool, where R2-D2 is trying to repair C-3PO because his head was put on a battle droid body while a battle droid head was put on his body. And as R2-D2's dragging 3PO through the dirt towards the body, 3PO says, "Oh, this is such a drag." And then not even a minute later, or hell, not even 30 seconds later, or maybe even 15 seconds, once they get to the body, C-3PO says, "Oh, I'm quite beside myself." Oh, you couldn't even let us have time to breathe over that horrible pun, George. You just had to throw in a second one at the snap of a finger. And speaking of childish, the CG it has not held up very well. It looks terrible. Okay, let me be fair. There's some parts of the CG that look good, particularly when it's world building or when they're vehicles. Those look good. When you have to have CG characters like Dex, some of the Geonosians, it just looks like a cartoon. It looks like something straight out of Pixar. And I want to say that the CG is just 13 years old, so we thought it was cool back then, but now it's outdated. But the only monkey wrench in that idea is that the two towers came out the same year, and we got Gollum, which was an incredible effect. 13 years later, that thing still holds up, whereas the CG here doesn't. And just a little side note, when the clone troopers come in, they're basically the early stormtroopers. Did they have to be CG? Why couldn't they have just actually built real armor for the clones instead of just having to CG all of them? I mean, I'm grateful that the new stormtroopers in The Force Awakens will go back to being practical. But I've shit a lot on this movie, and rightfully so, because it's still bad. As I said, everything that Phantom Menace did bad, this did worse. But I want to talk about some good stuff, because this movie is actually a lot more entertaining than Phantom Menace. The other actor who tries his best with the material, aside from Ian McGregor, is Christopher Lee. He's the villain of the movie Count Dooku, and his voice is really cool. He has a lot of authority, and he just comes across as a cool villain. I know he's explored more in the Clone Wars, and he does come late in this movie, so we don't know much about him via the movies. But I'm like, this guy actually kind of works as a villain. I just kind of wish he was in the movie more. And the action scenes are really cool. I mean, I wish you'd cared about the characters more, but what action scenes there are in this movie are entertaining. The speeder chase in Coruscant, the fight between Obi-Wan and Jango Fett, the fight in the asteroid field, and the end of the movie with the arena scene, the arrival of the clones, and the lightsaber fights between Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Count Dooku and Yoda are really cool, I think. And speaking of Yoda, it was actually cool to see Yoda kick some ass. We've been so used to Yoda as a, old, wise Jedi, and I actually prefer that Yoda. Don't get me wrong, I prefer when he's very simple and wise, but it's also really cool to see Yoda actually get into action and wield a lightsaber. Granted, I'm not sure why he needs a cane if he could just jump around all over the place with the lightsaber, but hey, whatever, it's cool. Yoda kicks ass. And another thing I like is the world building that the prequels continue to do. With Coruscant in Phantom Menace, Coruscant was just very boring and almost nondescript. Here, Coruscant is a lot more developed. We get to see a club area during the speeder chase between Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Zam Wesell. And we get to see this 50s style diner, which a lot of people don't like. I kind of like it. I mean, if we had a Western style bar in the original Star Wars for Tatooine, a Western-like planet, why not a 50s style diner on a city planet like Coruscant? Kamino, it's okay. It's basically just a planet that's full of water. It rains constantly, and the only way anyone can live on Kamino are through these platforms that are above the ocean. And it's a fine planet, I guess. Geonosis is pretty much a desert planet, like Tatooine, except it's almost like Mars this time. The sand is red, there's some cool-looking spires. It's a really neat-looking planet, and I like how all the buildings are pretty much rock, which is pretty creative, I gotta say. Tatooine and Naboo are in this movie also, and they're pretty much the same planets as before. Naboo is Naboo, Tatooine is Tatooine. Tatooine never changes throughout these movies. And then there's one joke in the movie that I actually like. As much as I dislike the dialogue in this movie and the humor, there is one thing that made me laugh. And that's when Obi-Wan and Anakin are trying to find Zam in one of the bars on Coruscant. And a drug dealer comes up to Obi-Wan, and the conversation goes like this. You want to buy some death sticks? You don't want to sell your death sticks. I don't want to sell your death sticks. You want to go home and rethink your life. I want to go home and rethink my life. Even right there, I chuckled a bit reciting that line, because it is admittedly pretty funny. But aside from that, Attack of the Clones is just not very good. Because in some areas it's worse than Phantom Menace and other areas it's better, it's really debatable which one of these is actually worse. So I'm going to give it the same rating I gave Phantom Menace, which is don't waste your money. Yes, I like the continued building of worlds in this movie. Yes, I like the action sequences. Yes, the John Williams score and the sound effects are as spectacular as ever. But the dialogue, the acting, and the love story kill it. So, again, I don't hate this movie, but I would not recommend this. In fact, what I would recommend to anyone who's showing their kids Star Wars, I mean, obviously you gotta show them the original trilogy first, but if you want to show them anything in the prequel era, show them the 2D Clone Wars series, the 3D Clone Wars series, and then Revenge of the Sith, which we'll review next week. But Attack of the Clones and Phantom Menace really have no reason to be watched at all. Again, I don't think they're god-awful when you look at them as a whole, but they're still not very good. And that's my review for Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Leave a comment and tell me what you thought of the movie if you've seen it. What did you think? Like, subscribe, share me with your friends, and this is the real Mr. Robinson telling you there's only one.